What's up, guys? Sean, Rich, and of course we got little Bubbles here from Fit Fusion Brotherhood. And in today's video, we're going to talk about fat loss, and I'm going to bring out some topics and we're going to put them into tiers. So we have 5 different tiers. We have elite, good, meh, not necessary, and avoid. So I'm going to bring it over to Rich. He's going to choose what he thinks it's going to be. Then it's going to be my turn, and we have to come upon an agreement and decide which one's which. Remember, the specific target and goal for today is fat loss. Okay, so that's the topic. You ready to get started?
Let's do it, buddy.
All right, so I'm going to bring the first one that should be relatively simple. Hopefully we agree on this one because I'm sure we will have some disagreements, and that's sauna.
Elites. No, I'm joking. I'm going to say avoid to not necessary. Probably the more not necessary range. Selfishly speaking, I'm not a big sauna guy, which is why I'm kind of pushing to avoid because I don't like being trapped in heat. But I'm going to say not necessary for that one, guys, because if we're talking fat loss, sweating a crap load is not going to do anything for you. So definitely not necessary to do. I'm assuming that's what you have as well.
Correct. I love a good sauna. It has nothing to do with fat loss. So if you enjoy it, go for it. If you don't like it, no worries at all. It has nothing to do with fat loss. So if you want to do it, by all means, go for it. All right, so second one on the list now we have strength training. What do you think? Fat loss specific.
I'm going to go good. I was going to put it elite, but I'm going to go good because I don't want to give any spoilers because we're going to talk about it later, I'm assuming. But strength training, guys, is very important for fat loss. Just because you got to protect your muscle in a fat loss phase. That's the main goal. I always say in a fat loss phase, your goal is to lose as much fat as possible, but retain as much muscle as possible. If you don't have strength training, then I would say you're just missing half the boat. So I'm tempted to put this elite, but I'm going to put it as good. Do you agree with me?
I agree 100%. I thought you were going to go elite for sure. I think technically, if you're looking at just fat loss, you could put it under met or not necessary because the only thing you really need for fat loss is a calorie deficit. But there are so many studies that show that people who strength train while they're cutting body fat are much more likely to lose weight and keep it off. So for that reason, we're going to put this one in good. All right, so next one. This one we may disagree on, but we'll see, and that's running.
Running, I'm going to go...
We're talking about, by the way, running like 5, 10K, just kind of like intermediate, long jogs type of thing.
So I'm going to go not necessary. I'm a believer, kind of talks about the point we said before. You know, your goal is to try to lose as much fat as possible, but retain as much muscle as possible. So in the fat loss phase, guys, my exercise, I want strength training to retain my muscle. I find running too is definitely hard on the body. Now you can talk me up to meh, fair enough, but I just think, guys, it's just more, I don't want to say more damage, but you're just leaving a lot of pressure on your joints, and at the same time, you just don't need it if you're trying to lose fat. I don't run at all, and I would say I'm pretty good, have a pretty low % body fat. Where did you have it?
Yeah, I disagree with you there for sure. So you to his point, you don't need it. But if we're looking at correlation between running and fat loss, is there a relationship? Absolutely. So to say not necessary is technically true, but also it can absolutely play a role. We already know running or long distance cardio is going to burn more calories than strength training anyway. So you could technically make the argument that running is better for fat loss than strength training if you're just looking at it in a vacuum. So I would say good to meh, but I'm willing to meet you in between and put it into meh.
Fair enough. That's a fair answer. I thought you were going to say good, which you kind of did, I guess.
In between,
yeah, fair enough.
So the next one I do feel like we're going to be in agreement on, and that's tracking calories.
Avoid.
Yep.
No, I'm sure. Definitely elite, guys. The number one thing I always going to say to people, if you're trying to lose fat, the most important thing you can do when it comes to nutrition is track your calories, because if you're not tracking, you're usually guessing. And there's a bit of a stat too that even when you do track your calories, most people underestimate their calories by about 20% or so. So you can imagine how far off you can be when you don't track your calories. So I'm definitely going to say elite here. What do you got?
It's definitely elite. So it's not for everyone. I know not everyone wants to track calories, but it's very difficult to screw up if you're tracking calories correctly and your goal is fat loss. So if you're feeling stuck, if you want to lose fat, you have no idea what to do, if you track your calories correctly and you do it the right way, it's almost impossible to fail. So for that reason, it's an absolute elite for me as well. All right, now we're going to bring up some controversy. We're going to talk about GLP-1s. Not going to bring out any specific companies or drugs here, but you know what we're talking about. Those ones that you take to help suppress your hunger and help you lose fat. What do you think?
So this is our second take right here, because I kind of went back and forth on my first one. We deleted it. So I'm still kind of torn right now. But if I had to pick one thing, I'm going to go with not necessary. It can be very beneficial for some people when it comes to losing fat. But here's my only problem with it. If you're on those, if you want to call it a drug, but then you get off of it, if you don't actually have the discipline, you learn the discipline to curb your appetite, and you're not doing it yourself, like what's going to happen? And I know this is like talk about fat loss, not about health. There's some health things that we can maybe get into also, but like I'm gonna go not necessary, but you can definitely talk me into it is good for short-term fat loss. But if we're talking long-term fat loss, I'm gonna say not necessary, guys. I'd rather you do it by yourself. I know you're gonna disagree with me there.
Yes and no. It's a tricky one. There's like nuance counts, context matters. I'm actually shocked he didn't say avoid. We've talked about this before. We do kind of disagree on it. I think it really depends on the person. At the end of the day, I'm willing to concede that it's not necessary, but you could also argue that it's elite, right? Because the people that take this, it works. So if you're talking just from a fat loss perspective, it 1000% works. But like Rich said, we kind of don't want you to be using that as like your only way to lose fat. Now, my biggest, I guess, criticism with some of these drugs isn't necessarily the drug itself, it's the behavior that goes with it. So if you're not prioritizing strength training, if you're not getting enough protein, what ends up happening is you're going to lose body fat, but you're also going to end up losing muscle. And then as a result, your metabolism is going to slow down. And like Rich said, once you get off these drugs, then you're in a worse spot than you actually started, even though you may be at a lower body fat. So it really depends on the person and on each individual circumstance. I'm willing to say not necessary because I don't think you could say either good or meh. I think you have to almost say elite, not necessary, or avoid. So willing to meet somewhere in between, and we'll say not necessary for most, maybe necessary for some.
A bit of a side note too, I'd be very curious to kind of see like the follow-up studies on this, right? Because I think we know for short term it's pretty good, but I would like to see like a 5, 10, 15-year study for people who actually lost a lot of weight on it, and then they get off it, were they able to keep the weight off? I think that'd be pretty interesting also to find out.
I agree. And I think the number one thing, if you're one of those people that maybe your weight has become an absolute threat to your overall health, then it's something to overall consider. But if you're just like 10, 15, 20 pounds overweight, I think personally there are other interventions to consider first before getting down that road, because once you start, like Rich said, it's very difficult to turn back. So we'll say not necessary, but there's a pretty broad spectrum there. All right, 5 down, 2 to go. The next one we're going to talk about is supplements. And when we're talking about supplements, let's just assume that you get to choose your preferred supplements to give to a client. So not just fat burners or stuff like that, like actually using them correctly. Where would you put it?
Okay, I'll say good then, because like if we're talking like creatine, excuse me, and protein powder, I think they're good because I think a lot of guys just don't get enough protein in. Creatine, like I'm not probably as big as a fan as you are on it. Like I definitely see the benefits of it. Like you get some strength, but I definitely think it varies from person to person. I think every single person can benefit from protein powder, or at least like 99% of us. Now, if we're talking like fat burners, like you said, and like other stuff like that, like L-carnitine, I'll probably say like not necessary. But when it comes to like overall supplements, and if I can choose two, and my two are protein powder and creatine, I would say it's good. What do you got?
No, I agree. So there are some that I would say avoid. But if we're talking about like what we would actually recommend, I'm surprised he's actually higher on this than I am. I would say either not necessary or meh. Because I think if you have the right diet, they're not necessary. Creatine's great, but it has nothing to do with fat loss. It might improve your overall performance at the gym. So I don't know about you, but I'm willing to meet somewhere in between. We'll call it a meh.
Yeah, I'll say meh. But yeah, okay, fair enough.
I think if the diet's good enough, you don't need protein powder. Creatine would be nice, but once again, that has nothing to do with fat loss. And I could make the argument that they're not necessary if you're eating the right way.
All right, I'll talk down. I'll agree to that. I'll agree to meh.
All right, so last one. As usual, we're pretty much not on the same page for most, but we've done a pretty good job of being able to kind of compromise and find a common ground. This last one is going to be walking.
Ooh, I'm going to go elite. Selfishly speaking here, I love walking, guys. I don't like running, which you kind of see I said not necessary before, and I'm saying walking's elite. You might be like, what's the difference between walking and running? I think it's pretty similar in terms of your burning calories. It comes down to basically just impact on your body. Like walking's obviously a lot lower in terms of recovery. Like you're not going to beat up your joints essentially, where I find running can be a little bit harder. And walking too is just so good for, just burning extra calories without essentially just taxing yourself. So I'm going to go elite here, but you can definitely talk me out to good if you want to. You're going to go good, are you?
I'm kind of torn as well. I will say it's kind of funny. Rich is the only one who walks faster than he runs, so I'm not surprised that he actually prefers walking. I would go elite as well. I think walking it's one of the only movement-based exercise that is really going to contribute to burning fat, getting over that plateau. We've seen so many clients that are eating really well, they strength train, they do everything right, they hit a plateau, and then suddenly they start to walk more and they break through it. So I wouldn't say it's quite at the level of tracking calories, but I definitely think it's the next thing below. And like Rich said, it's not taxing, doesn't beat up your body at all. So I would put it in the elite category as well. I agree. But I think it's probably in that little fringe. Anyone that we've discussed that you kind of like really have a gripe with?
No, I think we're pretty good here. I gotta get out of here soon, guys. My allergies starting to act up. But I think the two elite ones we said tracking calories and walking, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Do we have any for avoid?
No avoid. You wanted to make the argument at first for GLP-1s, and then we kind of switched that.
A few not necessary.
A few not necessary, yeah. You should hear this guy struggling over here with his nose, by the way, guys. So we're going to wrap it up. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you do like videos like this, do us a huge favor, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.